Hello, man. Hello, Mgtows. Go your own way. Go your own way, man. And all your sins are forgiven. Today we're going to talk a little bit about go your own way. Today we're going to talk a little bit about surrogacy. We're going to talk a little bit about surrogacy and Mgtow. As Mgtow progresses, and it's an option. It's a real option. You have a couple options in Mgtow. You can just refrain from that stuff. You can get a vasectomy and not have children, neonatalism, or you can want to have children. Most men want to have children, but they don't want to have a female adult child and have to take care of her for the rest of her life and everything. So today we're going to talk about the options of surrogacy, and we're going to talk about the options of probably during this thing, we're going to talk about the options of getting a vasectomy. And you can get a vasectomy reverse, but it's dangerous. And it calls for something to, we talked about it yesterday. It calls for you to self-mutilate yourself. And that's an option. And I was thinking about it. And from birth, men get self-mutilated. We self-mutilate ourselves with tattoos. We self-mutilate ourselves in vasectomies. We self-mutilate ourselves at work with burns. We do manly things that hurt and create scars and stuff like that. So it's not like we don't take on those things. But today we're going to talk about surrogacy, which is an avoidance of a lot of things that Mgtows would talk about, because a lot of men, and they do want to have children. Hello, Mr. Jones. Hello, CJ, and hello, Brissy boy. So surrogacy. What is surrogacy? Surrogacy is an arrangement. It's a legal agreement where within a surrogate mother will bear the child of a person or persons. If sometimes you see surrogacy when a couple can't have a baby and they want to have a baby, and she's not able to do those things, or maybe he's not able to do those things, and or maybe she takes a vanity look at it and says, vanity's sake, I don't want to have a baby. And a surrogate mother will arrange to have that pregnancy for usually a cost. And there's assistive reproductive technologies that there's risk involved with pregnancy. And some of these things that we talk about, you're going to have to understand that there's a female is putting herself at risk having a baby too. And it is transformative for their bodies. They will gain weight. They will lose whatever beauty there is about that. And it's going to be a process. So most of the time it's going to cost, there's going to be legalities and costs for surrogacy. There's a wide variety of jurisdictions and problems in surrogacy. But for a Mgtow, this is a really good chosen option. And I want to specify at this point that surrogacy arrangements may be monetary. There's compensation involved in these things, but it doesn't have to be monetary. And there are some situations like I've experienced in my life. Like I say, I have 5 children. I have one from a traditional arrangement, which ran me through the mill, and then I have 2 other children from surrogacy arrangements. That what I choose is the non-commercial surrogacy. There's commercial surrogacy and there's non-commercial. What I would date at that time, or whatever I would do, I preferred lesbians that were feminists, that just wanted a baby and didn't want me around. Now that's a good combination, and I've had 2 good experiences with that. That's a form of surrogacy. You're still the father, you still procreate, you still spread your genes on her, but a lesbian that doesn't want you in her life, that is a feminist, that doesn't want you around at all, may just need some assistance getting pregnant, and that's a good deal on that. So in my experience, it works out. There are some risk involved with that in some states and everything. It's problematic. International law doesn't really touch on surrogacy arrangements. It's really iffy in judgments. Sometimes you do want to go and have most of the time you will want to go have a a lawyer, a surrogacy lawyer, and have a surrogacy arrangement and everything. And then, but she will still be the biological mother. There is no doubt about that. She will have the baby. She will be the biological mother. At that point, at the end of the, she can dissolve the agreement and keep the child, or she can go forward with the agreement and and that's where a monetary fee for her services would be paid. She can't have the money and can't have services and get and it would and opt out of those services and then get child support and everything. There's legal difficulties in that too. My advice would be to like I said, lesbian, and I know that sounds lesbian, feminist. They don't want a man around. They need a man like a fish needs a bicycle. Good, fine, that's great. You involve yourself in that relationship. Lesbians are fun to be around. They're great. They like to drink. They like the same clothes I wear. They like the same kind of. They like women, and I like women, and that's great. Everything about them's great. So that's an option. But these are options you're going to have to manage and rethink in your life. You're going to have to rethink how you think about traditionalism in your life. There's going to be a gestational period where you want to be supportive. There's a lot of outcomes and different outcomes in these things, surrogacy and legal parenthood and everything. What you want as a man is legal parenthood, and there can be monetary compensation, and there's some cases you can figure out a way where there's no monetary compensation. There's a lot of different methods. Traditionality doesn't like this. The traditional world looks at this as it's wrong, and there's going to be a lot of fight back with even the courts and how religion has invaded our courts. But as Mgtows, there's a lot of things to look at there. There's risk. There's genetic risk. You have to genetically pick a female that's pretty healthy female that you believe has sexual diversity that is high comparatively to you. You're going to have that child too, and that's what I wanted to. At a certain point, you're going to raise that child. You're going to have every bit of the responsibility. That's your child. They're not something that you can throw away or get rid of after that. It's going to be your child. You can be a good parent, or you could be a bad parent, and that's all subjective to the world and money and your attitude and everything. And this is something that a lot of men should think about. I personally believe that a lot of Mgtows would make really good parents, or parent, and raise really good. If it was a boy, if you could, in some cases, you can even choose the sex of the child. There's genetic engineering and them things that are amongst, but that may be a little down the road. The outcomes are pretty much. They say it's 19 to 30% gestation and surrogacy. You're going to have to sometimes work at that, and it's going to have a lot to do with your sperm count and whether it's going to take and whether it rejects it. Sometimes women reject sperm because genetic diversity is not fulfilled, and they keep samples of portions of rejected sperm inside of them, so their body knows which sperm to reject. There's a lot of things that happen, and there's maybe a lot of things that you want to consider. Now, for her, there is going to be a gestational period that nowadays they can shorten the gestational period. They could take the baby earlier and put it into a unit after she's 14 weeks or something like that. Now they're trying to get that down to 12 weeks or 18 weeks. I'm not sure what they're at now. I have a video that kind of explains that. But historically, something like surrogacy is not going to be very popular within your community and within the religious community. Let me go back to the Streamlabs page and everything there, and say hello to everybody. Hello, AP50. 5:30, Brissy Boy, Mr. Jones. Hello, everybody. CJ. Today we're talking about surrogacy. We're going to talk about as an option, as Mgtow, met only. Thinking about yourself, thinking about your needs, what you want. If you want to raise a kid, if you want to have that experience, surrogacy is a real option. The other option for a Mgtow is vasectomy, and that's boom, they're going to cut you. You're going to mutilate your body. You've had your body mutilated twice in your life, probably to this point. And it's not something that you want to do. Most men want to keep their natural functions going as long as they can and everything. And surrogacy will alleviate a lot of those problems. Like I said, your choice. There's monetary surrogacy. There's other sorts of surrogacy too that you got to open your mind up to. And I know when I first involved myself in this, I was like very traditional, and then my wife said those words like I'm seeing other men, and we're getting a divorce, and it changed my life. It changed my thought patterns about why did I do monogamy? Why did I have children with her? Why didn't I do surrogacy? Why couldn't I just run around and do what I wanted to do and pick a woman that I wanted to, I thought would be a genetic match. All those questions, the what ifs started flooding in on my head. And I had to figure this thing out for myself because I know I still wanted to have children. And I know that I don't believe in that father thing. I just believe that I'm a pretty good donor and I would make a great father, but in today's society, father and religion and the demands on you become overwhelming. And the cost to you, the risk to that, we all know in Mgtow the risk involved with this would be having a horrible life, living in a one room, giving all your money to some woman for the rest of your life, and it don't end. Them kids, they keep growing and they keep and they stay on this planet much long time after you dissipate from this planet. So there's a lot of things to think about, but I do think surrogacy and the two commercial surrogacy and non-commercial surrogacy are options that MGTOWs can look at. And like I said, I've had great success with lesbian feminists. They don't want you around. There's nothing about you that they want groping on them at night. It's a simple exchange. You have your child, the child carries your DNA. She leaves with her girlfriend, and that's it. That's great. And it's one option to do. You have to come to an understanding and get some legal form signed. And most of the time I find that they're pretty understanding because they don't want you in their life. They don't want you coming around going, hey, I want to be a father to the child. That's the most irritating thing in the whole world. Now, the commercial surrogacy will be on the opposite, and you receive the child at the end. That will usually cost between $60,000 and $190,000. But when you think about the costs of divorce, you think about the cost to your emotional cost, the cost to your heart, the cost to your body, the risk involved with having a traditional marriage where you traditionally have babies and everything. Them costs are great, and it's much more. Most men could save maybe $120,000, $130,000 in a few years, and then you can fulfill your dreams and have a child. Get a lawyer, get the right kind of paperwork filled out. It's probably not a difficult process to fill out. You could probably go right down to your state and ask, what paperwork do I need? And then fill it out yourself. And have agreements, get them notarized. And as long as you have those agreements notarized, and this was a surrogacy, there's monetary conditions that were fulfilled, and this is my baby, not hers, and all that stuff. Boom. I know some states at the end, you have to go through a process of adoption. The father would have to adopt the baby. And that would be an easy process too, which you would have to have preliminary adoption papers filled out, and that was the agreement. So you adopt a baby, she gives up motherhood. Them are Moses' laws. She gives up motherhood, and boom, you have a little child to raise. But you will have a child to raise. I raised 3 children myself. Hello, Phil McCracken. So surrogacy is a great option for a Mgtow, and it's something that most Mgtows should think of. You don't want traditional relationships with women. Them are risky. Vasectomy, man, that's the only form of birth control that's available to a male right now. You can go overseas, get some birth control. You never know what you're getting. You never know. Even a condom, 1 out of 10 condoms bust. 1 out of 100. That means if you're having sex 100 times, one of those condoms is going to bust, and 100 times is nothing. I know what it's like being a young man. 100 times is nothing. One of those incidents is you're going to risk pregnancy, and then you're going to risk being run through this anti-father mill that they have, which crushes us, and it will crush you. There's no doubt about it. I talk to men every single day. So surrogacy is a great option. Now, surrogacy, like I said, there's several different methods to do that. Surrogacy that involves adoption when you get the baby. Surrogacy that involves just you handing the baby over to her. Say, thank you for having thank you for having my baby, and my genetic obligation to the universe is fulfilled. And I never wanted to be a father. See, I don't want to be a father. I'm not a good father. I'm not one of those people. I'm not a fit man for children to be around. I do things my way. I'm cranky. I like things where I like them. Things irritate me. I'm not a fit man to be a father. So surrogacy, in the other type where she takes the baby and I fulfill my genetic obligation to the universe it was great. It's a great experience. You may want to be supportive at the beginning, but never get this idea that you're the father and you can step into the life on that child and start saying, I want to be this father, and force yourself, because that involves the courts, and then the courts will say, okay, you want to be the father, you'll pay for that child. Let it go away. Let it slip away. Is what I would say. You fulfilled your obligation to the universe. You put your genetic DNA out there. And personally, I think I got great genetic DNA. I got all my teeth. I'm coming up on 60 years old. I got all my hair, and I still look decent. So that's a pretty good option for a woman, I thought. I'm a little more intelligent than the average bear. I look at things very differently. I have a unique perspective, and I have a unique look. And it's like, yeah, I want to share my DNA and that stuff. But these are things that all need to be thought of and talked about, and it needs to be. There's going to be a lot of thought, not just. There's going to be. I have to check the list of here and what people are showing up. There's going to be a lot of thoughts you're going to need, but I do believe for Mgtow and the Mgtow the desires and needs and how we think. We don't really mind raising children. I don't think most of us, at least 50% of us would say, yeah, I'd like to raise a little boy, make him into a football player. Make him into a basketball star, or get him into electronics, and I would like to have them fatherly duties in life and everything. But I just don't want a woman around yelling at me all the time. I don't want her claiming this is all hers. I don't want to lose half my stuff. I don't want to involve myself with the court systems all the time. I don't want to involve myself with the religious people. Whatever they think, they can They can think what they want, but you are going to have some problems with within religion and surrogacy and philosophical surrogacy. These people, these these people will often say there's numerous ethical issues that is raised from surrogacy, right? Regarding a lot of social justice, women's rights, child welfare, bioethics, stuff like that. There's there's the surrogate mother that she may have some ideas about what's hers after that, and if she can see the child, if she cannot. There's religious issues. There's Catholicism, Judaism, all those things, and they all have different. Mormonism and Hinduism, they all have different ideas about husband and wife, and they believe that's traditionally, they believe that marriage should be compromised by these things, and there has to be a marriage and a union between these two people. There's this fake idea of this magic connection between man and woman, and that fulfills your, Jesus or God or whatever is happy with you. And a lot of that stuff is problematic, and it leaks into our system. And we see that with, judges. We see that, and it shouldn't leak into our system, because we have a system that's separated from religion. You can believe in things. You can have the right not to believe in things. You don't have the right to push that on people, and you don't have the right to deny people of it. That's what it says in our First Amendment. You have the right to believe those things, but they push it into our system. And we know a lot of the Catholics, they're gonna condemn it, because it's like, oh, it's so unnatural, it's not naturalism, and I don't think that's really a concern that you should have. But you're gonna have family members, you're gonna have people around you that just look at you like you're some kind of freak. But I believe surrogacy is one good option. I mean, if you can get a child delivered of your DNA, the DNA is checked, that them takes all the you were a cuck dad, a cuck dupe dad out of the things, it's your child. And for $60,000 to $70,000, hey, I would pay that in a minute, comparatively to what I had to go through in a traditional relationship with the divorce courts and everything. She goes away, that's fine. There's a lot of incidences in the world where women don't want to raise the children. They don't want to be mothers. Like I say, I don't want to be a father personally. There's a lot of women that would like to have children, get that done and everything, but they don't want to be mothers either, and they're forced into this motherhood. You could find one of those. My brother had a child, or his girlfriend had a child. She left a child. He raised the child. He was a great dad. The child turned out great without a mother, and everything's great. If you can find yourself one of those situations, it's perfect. It's a perfect situation. But like I said, you have to think out of the box here. You have to get away from that traditionalism. You have to reconsider these options. You have to examine them and think about all of the things that are happening. You got to also think that you're going to be a father. You're going to be the person that this child looks up to, and you're going to teach it. You're going to have to consider your health. You're going to have to consider the child's health. You're going to have to consider these things for the rest of your life. Now, we have this certain thing which they call fertility tourism too. Western countries, Canada, United States, there's fertility tourism where you might want to consider a foreign mother, which is a surrogate to your child. She brings the child into life. She makes money. That can make a female in a third world country, go from poverty to a very good standard of life in a short period of time. They might want to consider that. Third world countries, Nepal, India, Thailand, Mexico, all those you can change a female's life by the money you can provide. United States, Canada, England, our money is highly desired around the world, and that's one of the things you might want to. One of the things you may want to think about. There's also egg donation, where a female donates an eggs, and you still have to figure out how to get that into a female, fertilized with your sperm and everything. And there's a lot of complex ways to go about this, but some of the more complex ways I've explained, it can go monetarily or it can go voluntarily. Like I said, a lesbian feminist don't want you around, doesn't want you coming around bothering her for rights of fatherhood and everything. You fulfilled your obligation to the universe, and she goes on her way, never bothers you again. It worked out perfectly for me, and it may work out for you. It may not work out for you, depending on how you grasp this sort of situation. But seriously, I think it's a Mgtow option, and my best friend is raising his daughter as a single father. Yeah. I can see that. My brother raised his daughter as a single father, and let's see. Oh, I grabbed the wrong one. My wife makes me feel like a success symbol. It's so great. Another CJ says my best friend raised his daughter. I know a lot of men that raised their daughters. I know a lot of men that had this sort of surrogacy experience in their life, just because the mothers don't since he was 5, I'm 27. Yeah, that's great. Brissy Boy says his son has lived with him since he was 5 years old, and is 27 and doesn't have any contact with his mother. That's great. I love these stories because it shows that Mgtow works. Mgtow works. You're getting a highly prized male. You're getting a valuable asset to raise your children as a woman. And like I say, not a lot of women. That's where we can creep through the cracks too on this thing. Not a lot of women want to be mothers. Some women want to have babies, but after that whole thing, they want to go about their lives and have 100 extra guys after you and everything. But they just might want to have a child with you, and you can come to some agreement where you just adopt a child after she has it. And that's a form of surrogacy. Totally legal, very inexpensive, and sometimes, like I said, the lesbian feminist option is always there. And then regular contractual surrogacy is always there. That's probably going to cost you upwards to the larger amount of money and all that. But, some of us Mgtows, after if you stay through your 20s and your 30s and save a portion of your pay, you're going to be a very rich man. I wasn't that, because I already had 3 kids by the time I was like 25. That was the traditional option I took, which turned out to be a living nightmare in this society. But there are a lot of options for Mgtows, and I hear this sort of nihilism sometimes that, oh man, what do we do? That's my kind of joke when I go 200 miles in a fake ID. Go on, player, go try that. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying, go on, player. You think you're all that? Go try that. Go do that, and then fulfill your obligation to the universe and spread your genetics all around. I don't really care. It's a safe option. But a lot of men are delusional about their ability to be fathers, about their ability to be chosen as a father, about their surrogacy kind of takes care of that. There's a foreign option too. If you want to have a foreign baby, it's an option. You definitely will have a better chance at fulfilling genetic diversity with that. The child will be most likely not to have any Down syndrome or ADD or any of those things. The farther the genetic diversity is high away it away, the further it away from each other, the better off your children will be at the end. And then you become a real service. They'll probably be intelligent, bright, children. You can pick whatever you want then, and that's always an option. But that will cost you money. In some cases, that will cost you comparatively to their economy. You have to think about comparative economies. And it might be a cheaper option, and then you'll have to import the baby into the United States system. Say, this is my baby. It's now a citizen. I'll apply for citizen. You're going to have to do all of those things. So those things, you'll have to at least prepare yourself for a citizenship lawyer and stuff like that. There's a lot of ways to do it. We have to think out of the boxes as Mgtow. Sometimes in this traditional society, the traditional Christianity or Judaism or Judeo-Christianity society that we live here in America, in North America, and pretty much on this side of the world, they have the traditional boxes all filled for you, and they're telling you this is going to work out right up to that last one where you're going to dump you out on that bridge to nowhere. You're going to go, what the F? And they'll go, aha, we lied to you. And that's not really an option. That's when the risk, that's when most men consider suicide. They find themselves enslaved to this traditional system, this women, and you become a slave to the system. And that becomes so offensive to us. And a lot of men will, the incels or the blue pill guys, they might want to volunteer for that too, for slavery, because maybe that's the only way they can get a woman to be actually attracted to them. There's cuckmanship too. A lot of those incels will end up with a ready-made family. But they might consider that option too. Get a ready-made family. You get to play the part of the dad, but that's all you're really doing is playing the part of a father. And those things have risks too. I have another brother that adopted in a ready-made family, and she 2 years later divorced him, and he's paying for children that aren't his, which I just thought was, wow, that was just really bizarre. The judge, his non-biological children, but he did that mistake, and big mistake in his life. In that situation of adoption too, he adopted the children. The children should have been given to him by the judge, but this was in Tennessee, so the laws, and you have to be aware of those laws too. The laws in Tennessee, so like I said, father is not a real thing. Even though he was the adopted father, that judge went like this with the stroke of a pen and removed fatherhood from you. If it was a real thing and it wasn't a social construct, then he could never do that. It wouldn't be possible. The logic of that would not even, but the logic is there's no such thing as father. You can circumvent these things by surrogacy, or you can just make it not happen by vasectomy. That's the two choices that Mgtows have if they don't want to have these things in their life that cause misery. And you know what those things are. I know what those things are. It's the V, and they cause misery and pain and suffering. And if you're buying into that traditional Christian living, suffering is a good thing for them. They believe that every man should suffer as much as they can, and they will make you suffer along with them. So that's all I wanted to talk about. I wanted to come around and say, hey, Mgtow, how you doing on this Saturday afternoon? I slept in today, and I'm having a cup of coffee, and things are great. And hello, Bob the Monk. Hello, Brissy. We spoke to Brissy last night, and CJ and everybody that is coming around. It's impossible to be an atheist who says, I don't know why they stopped that one. I'm trying to fix the comments now. And so that's all I wanted to talk about today. There's a lot of options in this thing, and you have to think out of the box. And to think out of the box, you're going to have to talk to some Mgtows that have been through it. You're going to have to talk to men that have been through it. And we have a large variety of men in Mgtow that don't believe in the traditional ways. You can get some good advice from how to manage this, how to manage if you want to be a dad, if you want to be a mentor figure for a child and raise that child, because you're also going to have to provide food, shelter, support, schooling, and all that stuff. And that's where it's going to start costing you a little bit more money. Consider your, I would say, if you're going to jump into this thing, consider your obligation and consider how tenacious you're going to be to fulfill that obligation to that kid for the rest of his life. Because sometimes it don't stop after 18. Sometimes, most of the time, they're still going to be coming around. They're still going to like, Dad, can you help me with this? Dad, can you do this? Can you show me how to do this, Dad? And that's going to go for the rest of their lives, probably till they're 50 years old, and have that independence that they desire. But that's something you have to think about. I wouldn't say to any Mgtow to think about that lightly or make a hasty decision on having children, because that's what you're going to have. You're going to have a children, but surrogacy is an option. So I think I've said all I can say about it. If people want to look into this, if we want to delve deeper, let me know. We can delve real deep into the legal ramifications. This we can go state by state, country by country, and look into these things. It would be helpful to Mgtow to be informed what we have to do for the paperwork on this stuff. We can start looking into the paperwork on surrogacy, and to maybe set up a bank where Mgtows can go and have the information, the paperwork, and everything. That they printable paperwork where they can apply for surrogacy, find a partner, a woman that doesn't want to be a mother, and that's what you're asking her. You're saying, I need to find a woman that does not want to be a mother but wants to have a child. And I could fulfill that role of parent. So there's a lot of things, and I'd like to see Mgtow dig deeper into this and do themselves a service. But maybe that's down the road. And right now I'm just kind of just hitting on the idea. And but I know how it's worked out for me, and I know how, looking at the chat, I know how it's worked out for some form of surrogacy or adoption. It was worked out for a lot of Mgtows, and I think Mgtows do make great fathers and great mentor figures and dads. Because you're never a father, you're not having a baby. She is, and that's one thing you have to recognize. It's her baby. It's her. She made it 100%. It's coming out of her. There's no such thing as sympathetic pregnancy, and that's what gets most traditionalites in trouble. They think they're a father. They think we're having a baby, and all masculinity was lost the first day the first man said, "We're having a baby," because you're not. She is. You're having some delusion that that's yours, and in a traditional legal manner, you're delusional, and that's going to cost you. So that's all I want to say. I'm going to end this broadcast the way I do every time. Thanks a lot for coming around, Mgtow. And most of all, thanks for being Mgtow. Mgtow.